Hello everyone and welcome to Musings with Rebecca. Last night I was having a nap, and the change from the summer, the warmer days, the warmer evenings to the transferring over into autumn, the cooler days, the darker days and nights. It's been quite busy emotionally, energetically, and I was having a rest, and a strange sense of guilt just creeped in, that I should be getting up and I should be doing something else and I should be being more proactive. And then a voice said in my mind, but on the seventh day God rested. And I smiled and thought, of course, as humans we are meant to rest, and why do we not allow ourselves to rest? And as I was pondering over this seventh day, this day of rest, another voice interjected and said, God did not rest. It was not a verb. It was not a doing word. God became rest. And that kind of spiked my interest, that this thought had popped into my mind that was completely different to the version of the story that we read or we'd taken on, that God was, as the creator, had spent the first 6 days creating, and then he got tired and he rested. And just the change of wording, that he did not rest, he became rest itself, really spiked my interest. And if you've been listening to any of my other videos or ramblings, you would have heard me saying that recently I have felt like I have become one with certain elements, like a storm, feeling what it feels like to be the storm, feeling as one with the storm. Or if I'm out running, I feel as if I become like the wind, or if I become what it feels like to be a tree or a blade of grass, or I become the feeling of the rain, and this real feeling of interconnectedness, that I am one with these elements. I am one as I run on the earth. I become the earth. I become very much embodying these feelings of the elements. And then so to have this thought come into my mind that God became rest rather than God rested, it spiraled into this whole thought process. And I thought, imagine if we've got this completely wrong. Maybe this is just a switch of perspective. We often see God as separate from us, that he created us. So he created animals, if you believe in a creator source. That the Bible talks of us being created in God's image, and God created the animals and the sky and the stars, and he separated the waters and the land and separated the darkness from the light. But just this one word, he became rest, rather than he rested, provoked this entire thought process that opened and unraveled something within me. And so I started to think, maybe God didn't create us. Maybe God became man. Maybe God became woman. Maybe God became the grass. And his signature print of God, his DNA, his structure, his essence, is within all these things. And that's what I've been sensing recently, that God is within the blade of grass. God didn't create the grass. Maybe God is within the blade of grass. God is within the water that covers the earth above and below. Maybe God is within the soil, within the trees. And that's why nature has this wonderful essence of meeting your maker. And then it kind of took me down this rabbit hole of thought, that if God became man to experience what it feels like to be man, and became woman to experience what it felt like to be a woman, and he became the fox, he became the squirrel, he became the fish, he became the creepy crawlies, he became the clouds in the sky, he became the stars, he became the rivers that run. That would mean that God is hidden within everything, within a rock, within every object, and maybe it's simply our awareness or our separation consciousness that make us think that we are separate from God, when actually God is within each of ourselves and within each and every object and living being that is upon the earth. And I was thinking back to scripture that God says, you can look at the trees and they would even proclaim that I am I am the creator. Talk to a leaf. Go and ask a leaf who created it. And the idea that God transfigured itself to experience what it feels like to be the animals, to experience what it feels like to be within the sky. And we have that same essence within us. And it was like, rather than imagining this bearded man in the sky with a pot of Play-Doh creating shapes and then and breathing life into them, that he became the shape. He literally morphed into a man, morphed into the fox, the lion, the bear, the tiger, the breath of life that God breathed in. He became life and had all these experiences. And the other day I was kind of traveling through all these animals in a vision. I knew what it felt like to be a tiger and a bear and a panther and a snake. And I know what it feels like to become like the storm, to feel that electric running through my body. I know what it feels like to be flying through the sky. I know what it feels like to be able to transport and to have a feeling and knowing of others. Where does that come from? And it reminded me that there is that fingerprint that God impresses upon everything, the Fibonacci swirl, the fingerprint that God, there's a code, there's a God code within everything. Every living being, there's a code. And it carries the same patterns, the same sacred geometry. And it's like God saying, peekaboo, I'm in everything, except you didn't realize it. And maybe now just a new awareness is bringing that realization that I'm everywhere. You can't hide from me. You can go to the depths of the ocean, or you can fly to the moon. I am there. That's why God says, I am there with you. You can crawl down into the pit of hell, or you can transcend into the universe. God is there. It's because everything that has been created is God. God is within it all. It's within us. And it created this real sense of we are one with everything. If I am God morphed into a female, my experience is God experiencing what it feels like to be a female, with my life circumstances and my soul, the codes that are written within me, what I want to do, what I want to experience. Then when I look out of my eyes, the windows of my soul, and I see my brothers and sisters, they're simply other aspects of God wandering around on this earth, experiencing a different story. Like God being this great storyteller, he wanted to experience everything. And yet we've limited it all. And then I thought about how there is almost a war or a separation that comes between fellow men. It's when we have this separation consciousness that we are separate from one another, that we are not all of the same source. And that causes division. It causes us to judge. It causes us to point the finger. It causes us to have these disagreements. And it kind of became more clear or more obvious to me that as we awaken to this oneness consciousness, that we are all one, we are all from the same source, we are all brothers and sisters, we're connected to the animal world, the animal kingdom, Mother Gaia, the earth, the elements. Nothing is hidden from us. We are like being in the Garden of Eden. if we return to this awareness, and yet so often we're blind. We are blind and we cannot see. So many spiritual songs talk about being blind, and now I can see. When our awareness kicks in again, it's like, oh, how did I not know that? How did I not see this? How did I not sense that? Where was I? Where have I been? I was lost. But now I'm finding out I was blind, but now I see. And I feel like the closer I strip away all of the things that are hinder me, and the limitations, and trying to just search. Searching for God outside of ourselves is silly, because it's right here amongst us. Within everything around us, within nature, within the animals, within this life experience, within our relationships. And I also thought that's why it's so difficult to have a conscientious or conscious relationship with somebody that doesn't understand that, because they will always see you and them as separate. There is a division, like standing with a wall between you. And the more open you become and the more receptive you become, you appreciate the moment, the interactions, the intimacy between lovers, the intimacy between mother and daughter, mother and son, father and son. You appreciate the friendships, you appreciate the conversations, because God is there in your midst, in the voice, in the echo of the vocal cords. God is the breath. God is the sensations within your body, your emotions. God became. God is amongst it all. And so no, we can never be alone. We can never be lost. It's all a matter of perception. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. It's just a perspective. It's just an awareness. It's just an angle to look at, a viewpoint. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Love you today.